Thank you. Now, Mike Cooper, Wings report.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm going to go ahead and apologize right now for my voice, but cold seems to have landed in my voice box. We've got for you, this is mostly water, so you'll forgive me, I need to partake of that now and then. If you look at our balance sheet, we'll start there. I know there's a lot of questions around some topics here, especially cash. Can you hear me okay? Okay.
And Commissioner, the balance sheet is on page 39.
Mine's cut off.
Again.
Go ahead.
Okay. I've got what I've listed here is the balance sheet as it ended September 30, 2015, compared to August of the same year, compared to September of last year. Now this, I know this is September's numbers. This is the end of our fiscal year. A little bit late in getting this to our board and to you because we had a computer conversion that we had to work through. And combining two systems is what it took. I wanted to be extra careful on this month because this is the document that goes to the cost report, and it's our final financial statement of the year. First of all, let's look at cash. Those two numbers there, 116,000 and 163,000, represents 12 days of cash on hand. That's slightly up from the numbers we've had in the past, but we're not going to hang our hat on that number right now because, as you'll see in a minute down below, there are some liabilities that need to be paid with that. And so I'm going to speak to those in a moment too. Now, if you look at patient accounts receivable, allowance for uncollectible, and the accounts receivable net, we've got $1.7 million of net receivables at the end of September. And that is an estimated amount that's going to be collected out of the $3.4 million listed right above it. If you look back to September of 2014, we had $953,000 of net receivables. So the quality of the receivables now are greater than they were last year. Nevertheless, it's not collected yet, so hence, you know, some of the cash problems that we're all aware of. 47 days is our accounts receivable net day collection cycle right now. In other words, it's taking, on average, 47 days for our accounts receivable to be collected. Problem is a lot of cases that we've got payroll that's due every 2 weeks. We've got some our vendors, we want to take care of them. They like to get paid 30 days or quicker. A lot of people function on cash. I mean, we all function on cash. That's basically what this report's going to be about. When we take 47 days to collect and our other folks that we need and help us to supply services and payroll, they need the money faster than that. So you see there's very little margin for contingencies in here. If you look at our liabilities, in September of 2015, $951,000 is current. That is down from August, but it's up from last September. A couple things that have happened is that the healthcare trust fund that's been replenished, of course, as of this point in time, and a little bit of reduction to TMH. That's our vendor that it's the biggest one out there in singly that we need to be looking at, but they're all important, of course. So we've got a ratio of 2.2 to 1, current assets over current liabilities, which again is a fairly good number, but we want to turn these net receivables into cash. Now let me back up a little bit and talk about what's going on with cash. We changed systems on the last week of August. And so basically the whole month of September was the one we had on our new system, which had the learning curve for all of us. Now we had some fair training on this by the computer company. You know the debacle we had with CSS. So we went to Razor Insights as a option. That being said, we went that way because they were in the process of being purchased by Athena, which is a major company in the revenue cycle aspect of healthcare and hospitals. So the problems that we're having now at this point in time of September, and some of it has played forward till today. Coding, we talked about coding problems. The nation went to ICD-10 coding in October 1st, which is the beginning of the federal fiscal year. Medicare slowed down payment a little bit because of them wanting to make sure their systems were ready to receive bills that were geared to ICD-10 coding. And so that was one problem. Now, when we talk about a problem, like I said, we have very small margin for error on our operations because of the nature of the beast and the size of our volumes and our clientele. Pardon me just a second. We had some other issues around modifiers that go with coding bills. There's a lot of moving parts to getting a bill correct and out the door. Different systems have different clearinghouses and different bill scrubbers that make things right. You've got to go through some different hoops to get those bills out the door, but once they're out, they're good to go. So we've had some of our revenue cycle staff, and that by that I mean the people that work with the collections, the registration, and the billing part, and the coding. They've had some do what we call workarounds. I've had to do some workarounds with the general ledger, but we're not complaining about that because we know toward the first of the year we're going to be receiving the better upgraded system from Athena, which bought Razor. Another problem we're all aware of is physician recruitment. Another little contingency thrown our way is that in order to get physicians here, we're having to pay right now a premium called locum tenens physicians. We're paying about $1,000 a day to have them here, and that is whether they see patients, produce charges or not. That's just, again, the nature of the beast that we're faced with right now. Again, this too will get better when our physicians get off of this locum tenens situation and become employed or move to the community. And Mike may have some more to say about this. Are there any questions right now on cash or the balance sheet? Yes, on paper, it's a good ratio between current liabilities and current assets, but the challenge right now is turning the 1.7 million net receivables into cash. This is September. I can tell you at this point in time, we had about $280,000 to $300,000 that were in the process of being paid, and they were subsequently paid in the next month. Since this is a point in time of September's financial statement, and since some of these claims were not paid at this time, I took the liberty to reserving some of that in the income statement, which we'll see in just a moment. If you'll go ahead and turn to the next page, we'll see the income statement for the month of September and for the year. And I just want to say the layout's going to change as we get into the new system. I still want to go back to having the EMS and the clinics and the hospital all on one page. And I'll just tell you, the clinics lost $18,000. This is year-to-date numbers. EMS made $270, and the hospital lost $230. So when you put this all together, you're looking at the month of September. If you look down at the percent written off, that's toward the middle of the page, under the September current month, you'll see 64.5% there. Now, that means it's written off or reserved for. In other words, it's reserved as a potentially uncollectible, but again, some of that's going to be collected. I'm conservative there because of the way the bills were being processed with this new system. I think that's a conservative number, and less of that's going to be written off or reserved. If you'll see the same line over on the year-to-date column, it's 52% both years, September 15 and September 14, after 12 months. So we're pretty consistent there. The miscellaneous income we had for the month of September, $334,000, was Medicaid meaningful use money. That's money we got from the Medicaid department to offset some of the expenses that we've had to acquire the systems. If you will go back up to under the operating expenses to depreciation and look over into the year-to-date numbers, September 15 is $308,000. September 14 is $183,000. That's about $120,000 bump up in depreciation. Due to our Medicare and Medicaid payer mix, we're going to get back about 45% of that on our cost report. And as I sit here today, we're closing September now with the new system. I wanted to take extra time to be careful to get it right, because this is the document that we have to use to file the cost report. We're going to be changing cost report consultants due to the problems we've had in the past. I've got 2 proposals from 2 excellent audit firms that will do cost reports for us. And so remember, we've talked about in the past, there's $385,000 out there from years 2011, 12, and 13 that we haven't gotten yet. And we've got to file the cost report this year in order to get that money back. So whatever settlement we have based on this year, there's also going to be another $380,000 plus of cash coming our way. And now that does not answer our problems and concerns today, but that's in the near future. Again, talking about some things that hit us, we had a lot of $30,000 of ambulance repairs hit this month. And that's just the nature of the hospital industry as we are right now, with not much margin for error. This income statement is combining all 3 of our affiliates, the EMS, the clinics, and the hospital. Next page is just informational. It's a statement of use of cash flow. You'll see, again, I've got 3 years. 2 of them are audited and 1 is interim. You can see at the bottom, our cash ending balance is $397,536 and $280,000. And the last 2 pages are the clinics individually, separated from month end, year to date. And the final pages are EMS operations, showing the $269,000 profit for the year. Again, I want to reiterate this, that we've covered it during the workshop and before too. And I don't mean to not keep this in front of us, that the bottom lines you see on the clinics and the ambulance are, we have a lot of hospital administrative time and effort that goes into those 2 functions, which we're not putting those expenses on here. And this is legitimate and legal, because it will help us if we keep those on the hospital side. Helps us reimbursement-wise on the cost report. And that's what, when the day closes, it's all about cash. The rest of these numbers mean something, but we all look at cash. Cash makes the world turn around. So to summarize, we've got yes, we've got a potential cash. We've got not a potential, but we have a cash flow issues at the moment. It's going to get better. We've got a dedicated staff and a dedicated billing company to do that. Mike's working hard to recruit doctors, and we're going to get there. But shortly, I should have October done before we meet again, and hopefully have November done before we meet again. So if it's at your pleasure, I will send that to Mike, and he can get those numbers to you also as soon as we have our board meetings to go over those. Any questions for me?
Yes, sir. I thought the ambulance paid for itself instead of coming out of the hospital funds. You said you had some ambulances break down. It cost. I thought the ambulance was funded itself to pay.
Well, we keep, like I say, I think we've discussed this before. I think we also touched on it in the workshop. We don't separate the funds for number 1, that reason, and number 2, the fact that all the expenses we could legitimately allocate, if you will, to the ambulance company, we don't do that because we have better paybacks from Medicare if we keep it on the hospital portion of the books.
But it's not.
I mean, it's that's Medicare's accounting for you, but that's
But that's not an accurate number, though, Mr. John, is it?
Well, it's the number. It's accurate from the standpoint of this is our books that goes to the Medicare cost report. I can send you a separate email with some allocations and explanations as to what would have been, you know, an actual bottom line for ambulance over here, clinks over here. I can do that, but it's not the document that we will use to file our cost report.
How many days, excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
how many days cash do you have on hand?
We've got, as of this report, we've got 12. Today, we've got 139,000, which is about 7 days. Payroll is due Friday, and we're...
How much is payroll?
145. We'll make that, but again, it's a constant. I'm not going to deny it's a juggling battle at times.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. John. You being the CFO of the hospital, what is the financial status of the hospital right now today?
Like I said, it is it's nip and tuck, touch and go. It's what's going to cure all the ills is the more services, more doctors using the hospital. That's the bottom line of every hospital that's there, unless they've got a extremely rich foundation or other support like that.
Now, what I asked you was, what is the financial status of the hospital? What kind of financial shape are we at the hospital?
Not going to deny it could not be better, but the thing of it is the hospital right now is operating with county monies, as you can see on the income statement, basically breaking even, with very little room for error, margin for contingencies.
Are the financial status is good at the hospital? Is it fair at the hospital? Is it carrying its own at the hospital? What is the I mean, that's what I'm asking. Is it doing good? Is it doing bad? I mean, you're the CFO, and I want to hear from you, because I know that you're not going to stand up here and tell me no lie.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Because we've had enough of the lies. We've had enough of the lies, and we've had enough of the trying to whitewash something over. My job is to represent the people of Franklin County to the best of my ability. And just like I said just a while ago about that consortium meeting and the little things that happens and the little deja vu, let me tell you, with this hospital, I'm feeling it right now.
Let me tell you.
There's a little, y'all wasn't here, so you don't know. But there's few things that's going on that is taking place that I can see what's coming around, and I'm scared. Let's just say that. Okay?
Okay.
But that's the reason why I asked you what was the financial status of the hospital.
Well,
good, bad, or ugly?
It's not ugly. Could be better. It's below average.
Below average.
But again, as far as financially goes, yes, we would need, like I think Alan pointed out last time when we talked about the ICD-10 coding is coming up. Most places would set aside a pot of money to reserve for that. We don't have that. And we all know that. The thing of it is, if it's below average, we're pretty close to getting it above average because of the physician recruitment. The only thing we can do is support Mike with physician recruitment and add more services and recruit doctors who will use the services. I mean, some of the numbers are good, but some of the numbers are good, such as the AR days, that's average to good. Cash on hand is bad because it doesn't give us any room for margin for errors. The current ratio is good, but again, it depends on collecting of the cash. If we come back in about 2 months and we've got $200,000 to $300,000 of this particular money right here that's reserved for collected, and we've got our $385,000 from the cost report collected, then theoretically we could reduce receivables about $600,000, or combination of increasing cash, reducing receivables. That's a contingency that every hospital has to go through.
Well, is the vendors' payments up to date, and is TMH payments up to date?
You can look at this. I'm not going to lie to you. They're not up to date. They're not where
How
they
far
would-
back are we on vendors, Mr. John?
We've got about, like we got net AR days of about 47. We've got about 55 days in payables.
50
So, again, it's, locals are paid quicker. Payroll is paid on time. It's the way the situation is structured right now with the volumes that we have and the payer mix that we have. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's A plus.
I like the truth. I like people to tell me whether it's, like I said, good, bad, or ugly. I like the truth because I and these 4 other commissioners up here are answerable to the people of Franklin County. And I'm going to say this one statement. I'm going to say a couple of statements, and then I'll let him speak. You need to hear this. At the last meeting that y'all were at, Mr. Jim Baccarat, the chairman of the hospital committee, got up and asked this board to move ahead on a brand new hospital, on building of a brand new hospital. You had 2 commissioners, myself and Chairman Massey, that voted against it. After that, we was criticized and ridiculed by some of the people within the facility because we didn't support the hospital. At a prior meeting before that, myself and Commissioner Massey said, we have had people from the public come to us and ask us to please have a public meeting, a public hearing, to where we could discuss all this before we go forward with the hospital. I didn't think that, since we had already said that, I didn't think we needed to explain ourselves at that meeting. And so the vote was 3-2 to go for building of a new hospital. Now I'm hearing no one communicates with me through the hospital, or I'm not one of these commissioners that is on a day-to-day phone call with the hospital. I don't think any of us are. But the thing about it is I'm hearing now that we're not having a hospital built, that it's probably going to be an ER built. Now, when Alan Pierce said in the workshop we had, why couldn't we just build an ER and build from that ER with its triage? Oh no, we need a new hospital. Now, my thing is, I have always been supportive of the hospital. That's why it's still open. Me and this board and myself, we're supportive of it. How can you substantiate building a new hospital with the problems that we have internally with the hospital we have now? You can build all the brand new buildings you want to. You can line the streets of Apalachicola all the way to Carabel with brand new buildings. But until you fixed the internal problems of this hospital, and that's cash flow problems, you're not going to go nowhere. Until you fix and have providers in there that's going to bring the people in, bring the services in and everything, you're not going to go no farther. So, I mean, that's the reason why I did not vote for the hospital. I don't think I have to substantiate myself, but I think that people are owed that. It's because, number one, I know that we have financial problems. And number 2, we have not had that public meeting with the people of Franklin County, and here's what the people want, not what this board wants, and not what that hospital wants, hospital board, or what the CEO wants. I want to hear what the people of Franklin County want. The people of Franklin County is who put us in and who can take us out. You all don't have that luxury. We do. And so we're accountable. And I'm going to tell you something. It makes me very sad to see the hospital in this state that it's in now, and that y'all think, or anybody thinks, that we can carry on with a brand new facility. We cannot. And I will not, as long as I sit here and see numbers that I'm sitting here. I will not support the building of a new facility and be on the burdens of the backs of the people of Franklin County until we can see some better numbers coming out of this hospital. And providers, I've asked y'all time and time again to get Dr. Charbonneau back in here. He's willing to come back in, and the people of Franklin County want him back in here. That's the major thing. The people of Franklin County want Dr. Charbonneau in here. Be inclusive. Let's get this problem. We can get this problem fixed, but it's going to have to be working together. The hospital board is not an independent board. They are answerable to this commission, and we are answerable to the people of Franklin County. So that, I mean, we could all be replaced, and that is a fact right there. So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the few minutes that you let me have, and I'm not through yet, but I'll let you go on and let somebody else talk.
John, the balance sheet is solid. As of today, what sort of collectible account receivables are you expecting?
Like I said, we've got about $280,000 to $300,000 that's going to be coming in the next month, but based on what's there now. As we keep on going from day to day, hopefully the volumes get up and the services provided are more, and those turn into cash too. You know, I can't make any guarantees on that, but we are having an excellent billing company. We have excellent folks in the hospital. The receivables that are there are being worked as hard and as timely as they possibly can be. There's another, again, I said the $385,000 coming from the cost report. Yes, it'll help, but it'll be a one-time shot. So going forward, what we all need to do is recruit, and you know, that's where the cash flow issues start, is providers and providers using the hospital. And
To follow up, I'm not familiar with the history of the hospital before a year or two ago, but I've noticed that the trends with the current management are very positive. What it appears to me is that we have a cash flow problem. Do small hospitals, is that common?
Very much so,
Can
yes.
you expound on that?
It's common sense, really. Hospitals, this country is filled with hospitals of a critical access nature, even larger, that are small in the rural areas, that have a limited resource of patients to serve, limited providers that are being scooped up, bought up, or partnering with other hospitals. One of the very few left standalone small hospitals is us. All hospitals that have volume challenges, and when Medicare will pay you, Medicare and Medicaid tell us what they're going to pay. We also have indigent programs that the East Point folks talked about too. You don't get what you charge for these folks. We have to make do with what we get. We have to touch all the bases that let us get about 50% of what we bill. And you have to serve whoever comes to your door. To answer your question, yes, this is a nationwide problem. Now, some of the critical access hospitals in the Midwest, for example, they're the only game in town for hundreds of miles around, and they've got, you know, all the physicians are right there. The volumes is what makes them tick. The volumes is going to what make us tick when we get there. And I have confidence that Mike is trying to find the physicians to get us to that point. We are not unique from the standpoint of having cash flow struggles. We are unique from the standpoint, and I do appreciate it, of the support we get from the board month to month. And that's the good part of this. But yes, hospitals struggle throughout this country. I think last year 7 closed in Georgia. I'm not sure what the numbers in Florida or Alabama are, but that's happening.
So you think this is a short-term problem that we've got?
It's short-term unless we don't fix the physician recruitment.
I'm sure Mike can respond to that.
It's volumes answers all the questions. We can treat all the accounts receivable totally correctly, but until we have enough of it to work with to pay the bills, you know, we're fighting a losing battle, an uphill battle.
I understand about 2/3 of the care provided is uncompensated.
Well, it's more like half, 55%, something like that. But
Question.
Yes, sir.
Is this the first time this ever happened?
No, sir.
No, we had to give them money a while back.
No.
I mean,
Not
Not
not in my
the first time.
career neither, no, not in other places. It's not the first time this has happened.
so it's not gonna be the last.
Well, probably not, but I can't guarantee you one way or the other. But again, the faster we can move on physician recruitment and upping the volumes and the admissions and the services that we provide, and that's the answer to the problem.
So this is a common thing with small hospitals.
Yes, sir. Very much so.
Another question. How do other hospitals handle it? They don't have trust funds like we do? Did they just get a credit line essentially?
Some of them would have a operating line of credit with a bank. Some of them have a foundation that supports them. Some of them, some of them have affiliations and partnerships with other folks that either own them or some other joint venture type arrangements that Mike talked about in the workshop. But the standalone hospital, with the demographics where we are and the number of providers that we have, it's going to be, the answer to the problem is the providers and the providers that use the hospital.
Yeah, because 5 of the banks you're talking about in Georgia closed the banks closed them. They had loans out to the bank, they just couldn't pay no more to the bank, so the bank just kind of foreclosed and shut them down.
I'm not familiar with the whys, but I know that.
Well, that's one of it's in
Okay.
it's in an article in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a motion that you're seeking today for advancement?
I'm going to let Mike touch on that.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. John?
Thank you for answering my question,
Okay.
Mr. John.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. John.
Good morning, Commissioners. I wanted to touch on a couple things that John mentioned, and Commissioner Sanders want to clarify a couple things that you mentioned. First of all, going to your comment regarding building an ER versus building a hospital. Initially, when the idea of building an ER that Alan brought up, that was brought up early on when I first got here, that was the idea of what they call a standalone ER. That will not fly here.
Right.
And I think the numbers that I showed you at the workshop showed that building a standalone ER will cost us for construction more than building a hospital, and operationally it will lose more than running the hospital. So a standalone ER is not, it's not a possibility financially. Secondly, what we are designing now is a hospital. It's not rebuilding all 4 walls of the hospital. It's actually rebuilding the ER, the radiology, and the patient rooms, not all of the ancillary services that go along with the hospital. I had a conversation a few weeks ago, define what it is as a hospital. And you know, we are a hospital now. At the end of the construction program, we'll be a hospital. And that leads right into my first comment, which is where we're at with that process. We have had several, since the last time we met, we've had several meetings with our consulting group and our architect. And we have had some very good progress on the design, so much so that my hope is that by the next time that we meet, I can actually show you pictures and diagrams of what it looks like. But what we've been able to do, and this goes to being fiscally responsible as well, we've been able to change the design from the last iteration that you saw several years ago to pare that down, not losing any of the functionality of the facility, nor any of the things that were planned in it, but the square footage has gone down by the way we've designed it. And therefore, the project number may come down a little bit. Obviously, we're still early in that, and the next thing, in order for me to get to the point where I can show you that, is the CM has to be on board for me to do that. But I did want to just clarify, we are not building an ER. It will be a hospital when it's done.